I think the only thing I want to talk about now, what do I want to talk about? Okay. It's an interesting topic. Psychedelic safety practices. I'm finna completely freestyle this because, like, I can just, I think I could just kick game by this all day. So, like, is that a dragonfly? It is. See, like, I've been keeping the grass like unkept for a little bit, and I've been noticing this. It been more dragonflies coming around. I'm trying to mitigate these mosquitoes, bro. You know what I'm saying? Cause it's so bad over here. But when it comes to psychedelics, man, like I've mentioned before in previous videos, me personally, my thing is mushrooms. I know how to work with mushrooms, so to say. You know what I mean? I know how to grow edible mushrooms and all that stuff, you know. Like lion's mane, oysters, oyster mushrooms, any gourmet mushroom, I can grow that stuff. I know how to grow all types of mushrooms. Peep game. So, you know, I got most of my experience with psychedelics with mushrooms, but I do want to try other stuff. I've had acid before, but acid lasts way too long, bro. It's not my type of thing, bro. Lasts way too long, bro. But I do want to try other things because you know I feel like I'm a type of individual that's in a rites of passage, and in order for me to be a facilitator of the space for people to partake in sacred medicine, I gotta go through the rites of passage. So I gotta have my experience so I can have knowledge on these things. But that's why I mainly talk about mushrooms, because that's the one I done work with the most. But I do want to take stuff like ayahuasca, maybe bufo or something like that. It's a bunch of stuff that people not even aware that even exists. But I ain't finna go too deep on that. We just gonna, the most common thing that people find is mushrooms, bro, or acid, of course. But I don't mess with acid. I don't mess with that stuff. Never took DMT. I say I'd rather do ayahuasca. I'm more of an organic guy. I don't like the artificial stuff. So when it comes to psychedelics, man, like I said, people in America, they just treat it like it's a drug, you know. Like people that's in that party type of lifestyle, when they take these things, bro, like they don't do no research. They don't do none of that. They don't do no preparation. They don't set no intentions. You know, people who treat stuff like a drug, they just take it. Yeah, you know, and most of the time, people who take a psychedelic, they trying to experience some grandiose like stuff. They trying to be entertained, so to say, without having to, you know, actually engage into no real activities that's just here on earth. Like they got to do some extra shit. So you know, that's usually the guys and the intention. And like I said, this is a medicine. It's not no like drug. So it's medicine. Medicine heals. You know, drugs They enable you to escape. You know what I'm saying? Drugs can be abused. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, when it come to psychedelics, bro, you have to do your research. This ain't something you just take. Like, I mean, you can do that, but like, I know, like, before I ever took anything, before I could ever find anything, I looked all this stuff up and researched it. I wouldn't necessarily call it research because I was just curious about the stuff and I was just looking it up. I wouldn't necessarily saying like I want to research this. Like, I was just curious, you know. But like, you know, like I said, most people who take this stuff, like, they don't do no research. Most of it is very surface level. They whatever they know is based off what they heard, probably word of mouth from other people's experiences, which is cool. But like I said, it's very surface level. So if you know about psychedelics, it's all about set and setting. Like, you have to prepare yourself to be on the journey. Like, you want to do it in a open space. I would say do it outside, you know what I mean, in a natural environment. You know, that's why they do those retreats in the jungle. Because not only in order for you to make the medicine, you have to get it from plants and things from that area, but the setting is natural. It's like, you know, you in the home of where what you're consuming comes from. So it's just gonna be a lot more of an experience that makes sense. Nature heals, man. All forms of medicine come from nature. You know what I mean? Now, when you start processing it and doing all this other stuff, that's when it comes a drug. When it becomes the pills and stuff like that. That's what that stuff is. But when you taking psychedelics, it's all about setting the tone. You want to be in a great energy, a great mood. You know, the more intentional you are, the better, bro. The more intentional you are, the better. If you look at the mushroom, it can look very much at certain stages of where the mushroom is growing, it looks like a keyhole. And that's exactly what it is. It's a doorway to whatever it is you intend to want to experience while you on them. You know, it's a key to discover parts of yourself and life. You know what I mean? It unlocks the door to awareness. You know. So like I said, the more intentional you are, the better. Because you want to set a destination. Because if you don't, it'll set one for you. You know what I mean? And like I said, that'll work. You know, you can just take it without. You know what I mean? Because your spirit will guide you, aid you in guidance through the experience. But you know, once you consume it, bro, you're allowing the mushroom or whatever you're taking, you're allowing the spirit of that thing to guide you in the experience. You know what I mean? It's like you don't just get in the taxi, bro. You don't just get in the taxi, bro, and you know, the taxi driver just automatically take you where you're supposed to go. You know, you tell them where you want to go. Mushrooms is the same thing. That's another thing. It's just like I said, being intentional, but acknowledging that this thing is alive and that when you consume it, it has influence over you. The more you acknowledge that this thing is a living thing, the better the experience will be. The more condescending you are, the more you don't acknowledge things for what they are. You know, it's just like when you blessing the food, bro. Before you eat, you acknowledging this thing for its sacrifice because it was alive, and now it's on the table, and you eating it. It could have stayed alive. You know what I'm saying? But that's why you bless the food, because you don't know what that animal, plant, whatever, you don't know what that thing been through to get where it is now, which is in your mouth and in the stomach. So acknowledge stuff for what it is, bro. You know what I mean? Because once you consume it, that spirit is going to attach to you, and it's going to walk with you. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be familiar with the things you attach to. You know what I'm saying? You want to have a relationship with them, and you know what I mean? You don't want to just be oblivious and unconscious of these things. That's why I say you do that. So, like, when it comes to mushrooms, bro, like, the way Americans found out about them was through this medicine woman from South America named Maria Sabina. I'm only speaking for like modern day, you know, America. Cause I'm pretty sure back in the day, you know, all the tribes and natives that live here, they was doing the same things. They was all doing the same things. But Maria Sabina, you know, she introduced mushrooms to people who were researching them in South America. So it was, you know, Caucasian researchers, mycologists, you know. She put them on. And when she put them on, like I said, she was a medicine woman. She was a shaman. So she knew how to facilitate the space for you to have an experience, a meaningful experience, you know? Because when you don't do that stuff, you don't set the foundation, that's how you open the door to have chaotic experiences. That's how you open the door to have an experience that don't make sense to, you know, that you just confused about, you know? You know what I mean? If you do the research on how Maria Sabina did it, she used to bless the mushroom. You know what I mean? With things like copal or frankincense and myrrh. Just like how you sage your room and stuff like that. You know what I mean? To get rid of the spirits and stuff like that. You do that for the mushroom. Do the same thing. You want to create the space, you know, a proper space for you to have this experience. You know what I mean? Especially if you live in the city. Especially if you living in the city. You know what I mean? That's why I say be outside, because when you outside, nature already created the space for you to have this experience. You know what I mean? Because you're already in the home of where it came from. It just makes more sense. So Maria Sabina, she will bless the mushroom, and like I said, you say a prayer, mantra, or intention, you know what I mean, to clear the space. You know what I mean? To set the tone, bro. Anybody who really into this stuff, they usually call upon certain individuals, you know, certain icons or deities or prominent figures to protect the space, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I think like in South America, um, they are very religious. So, you know, if they didn't like call upon like a certain deity, you know, they probably call upon Jesus, you know? Why? Because he's a prominent figure that people believe in, you know? So what he represents is not entirely negative, bro. You know? He's an archetypal like figure. That's why you can call upon individuals like that. So like when you trying to set an intention, you trying to figure out what you want to experience on the mushroom, you know what I mean? Ask for ways to better understand yourself, man. To better understand or overstand life as a whole. Like I said, like if you don't do that, your spirit will naturally, you know, instinctually go to what you need to know. But for growth, for spiritual growth. But the more intentional you are, the more you acknowledging what's happening. Oh my God, go. The more intentional you are, the more you acknowledging what's happening, what's taking place. So, for a fact, when you do this, you will have the experience that you want. Like whatever you asking for, you gonna have that experience. No cap. Like you definitely gonna have you gonna get exactly what you want out the experience. I've done this so many times, bro. You know? And like taking these things is like being on a roller coaster. You know what I mean? You got to come up, you peak, the climax where you reach the top, then you go all the way back down. So it's literally like that. The whole entire experience is literally like that, bro. You know what I mean? That's like the best way for you to compare what you're experiencing. It's like a roller coaster. Literally. And like the things that you gonna experience, like the anxiety and these disgruntled feelings of like, you know, did I make a mistake? Am I gonna lose my mind? You know? I ain't gonna lie, like I said, I done took them a lot. And usually when that happened, bro, I done had some of the best experiences I ever had, bro. Usually when I'm like getting nervous, that's how you know, you know? But like another reason why that happens, why you go through that is because you high key having a metaphysical experience while you still in your body. Like lately I've been having a lot of dreams, right? That would be very psychedelic in nature. You know? Like these dreams would be extremely vivid, but very psychedelic. That's the only way I can describe it. Like it will be very dynamic and a lot of stuff will be happening, you know, all in one sequence. You and like I can only compare it to a mushroom or a psychedelic experience because, you know, I done had so many experiences on them. And like I said, most of the stuff that you be feeling or experiencing while you on them, it feels so chaotic sometimes because you still in your physical body. That's why it's like that. You know what I mean? When you on psychedelics, you experiencing how life really is. And life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. You're just becoming more conscious of that while you are on them. You become more aware of that while you are on them. Why? So you can better create the reality that you want to see. This is why. This is how I learned about like how the things that I was feeding my mind, like I would take these psychedelics and then I would experience these things that I put in my mind, that it would be feeding back to me and relaying to me autonomously. And I was not liking what I was seeing, like, you know, very uncomfortable. But it just taught me that like I have a lot of attachments to things that I need to let go of. You know what I mean? That weighs me down spiritually. You know what I mean? This is what this whole experience is trying to teach you, bro. That's what the experience is trying to teach you. Now, one reason why I do these things is because I have a really broad imagination. And since I know what life really is, it's nothing but a dream. Like I said, I didn't have dreams, where I was doing some pretty, you know, miraculous stuff, some pretty meta shit, So I know if it's possible in the dream, it's possible here on Earth. You know what I mean? The only difference between experiencing stuff outside of this reality and when you're in it, like I said, is the level of density. And that density facilitates how quickly things materialize, how things manifest. You know what I'm saying? So the more connection you have outside of this realm, the more meta shit you can do in this room. You know what I'm saying? This is also why you're experiencing those things, so you can better understand like your power as an individual living in this holographic universe. I take mushrooms or psychedelics to discover things about myself and about life as a whole here on Earth. Humans are shepherds of the earth. We are the highest form of an animal on Earth. So we naturally have stewardship over the earth, and every single animal, everything that exists on here. Like we have a responsibility to like take care of these things. You know what I mean? To keep the balance, so the system can continue, just like every other animal. Everything that's alive exists for a reason. So when I take psychedelics, bro, I'm trying to discover things about not only myself, but about humanity. And, what I discover, I can bring back to here to teach people. You know what I'm saying? So we can ultimately, evolve. This is why I take these things. You know what I mean? This is a reason why a lot of people take these things. But like I said, it's like the intentions behind the things are very vain and superficial. And that's why the experiences that you have either don't make sense to you or they're just very chaotic. So that's why this stuff is a sacred thing. It's something that's not everybody is supposed to have the privilege to do. You know what I'm saying? Because if you are you're an adolescent individual, you know, like I said, you most likely lose your mind. Like you won't really look at this stuff from the right perspective, and you won't bear the right intentions to get the experiences that you actually want. You know, a lot of people, when they take psychedelics, they abuse them. People who like take a crazy amount in one sitting and try to do the same thing 3 days later or even a day later. They'll mix these things with all types of other stuff like acid, drinking, all types of pills and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's the degenerate way to do these things, bro. Cause like I said, it's not a drug, bro. It's medicine. It's medicine. But you gotta set the right space for it to heal you. You know what I mean? For it to really help, you know? Otherwise, it's just gonna take you on a ride, showing you exactly what the lifestyle you live in, like how it really looks, you know? You know what I mean? Like I said, that's when people lose their mind. That's when they go crazy, because they not happy with what they seeing, bro. So, you know, I come up here to talk about this stuff because I wish to create a future, to create a space where people can do these things in the proper way. You know what I mean? Because it's ultimately going to lead to the evolution of humanity. Like, this is why these things exist, bro. You know what I mean? Humans love to acknowledge things for not for what they are. Everything on this earth is alive. Every single thing on this earth is alive. You know? So, since you know this thing is alive, it must have a spirit. It must come from a place where, you know, makes it live, you know? It must come from a genuine place, bro. Everything that's alive has a spirit. So when you eat these things, you are communing with these spirits. You know what I mean? Like people who take like Zans and stuff like that, like they ain't even conscious of the fact that, you know, they communing with demons, lower aspects of themselves. You know what I mean? Because those are denatured versions of natural medicines. So it's only natural that the things that manifest from you consuming those things are lower states of being, like lower beings. You know? That's why people black out and they do crazy shit while they on them. Because something taking over. Something else is taking over. This same stuff can happen with music, you know, drinking, you know. That's why they call drinking spirits. Because you literally invoking spirits, like literally, you know. Whatever you eat, you are communing with spirits. Whatever you consume, you are communing with spirits. Like from your mouth, eyes, ears, all of that. All of it. Like I said, when you actually taking this stuff with a certain level of awareness, you're becoming more aware of these things and like how to navigate through this life, you know? That's why this stuff is illegal. That's why they don't want you to take it, because it actually make you way smarter than the average person. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, in the future, I see myself having some retreat type of vibes, you know what I'm saying? Some like that, where people can come take these things, where I can teach people how to cultivate this stuff, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? See, like places in like South America and certain countries, they allow people to do this stuff. And when I say people, I mean the indigenous people, because they the ones that do it. You know, the only ones that don't do it are people that live in modern day society, you know, in the city, because, you know, propaganda, all this stuff, they not fully aware of what this stuff is. Of course, they do a lot of this stuff in Africa and stuff like that too, you know. Any indigenous like tribes and stuff like that, they most likely doing this stuff still. And, you know, it's valid. That's why, you know, that's why they can survive in the jungle, because they have a deep connection with it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I got a dream to hold space for people who actually want to do this stuff in an expanded way. You know what I mean? Like the X-Men, mutants, and people who able to do supernatural things. Like, it's very possible, you know? It's a reason why people don't believe that it is possible, because only select people who have dedicated to themselves can do it. You know what I mean? Some yogi, some monk, you know what I mean? Some individual who detaches enough from this life. Like I said, the less disconnected you are from this life, the more influence you have on it as a whole. Like, the more meta stuff you can do. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I was inspired by people like Kalindi IE. You know what I'm saying? Acacia Lewis. Brother Panic. Shout out to Brother Panic, man. Crazy thing about Brother Panic, bro, is like, when he passed away, I had a dream, bro, where I met him. I only knew about Brother Panic through YouTube, when he would go live and stuff and just kick game. That's the only relationship I had with him. But he had such an impact on me that he showed up in the esoteric realm. He showed up in my dream, bro. And like, in the dream, we was like in this like oasis, this garden, this place that was just basically a place that I dream of being, like, living and existing in. We was just sitting there, we was just standing there, like, I think I said, wow, this place is amazing. Like, I wonder how I got here. And he was like, he told me, oh, you don't know? And like, that just stuck with me, bro. Shortly after I woke up, he was like, you don't already know? I was like, what? Shout out to Brother Panic, man. Rest his soul, man, for sure. But yeah, when it comes to the psychedelics, bro, like, you can discover things about yourself, bro, that you would never thought possible. You know what I mean? You can discover things about life that you would never thought was a reality. This is what it's all about, man. Becoming more aware. Also, that's what it's all about. It's nothing to be afraid of. You know what I mean? Because, you know, maturing and all that stuff, that shit is scary. Facing your demons, that is scary. Depending on what you did, you know, the actions you took in throughout your life, facing some of those things is scary. You know what I mean? It's only really super duper scary when, you know, you done really did some fuck shit. But even people like that can come from that, from these experiences, and redeem themselves. You know what I mean? That's why some people, they, you know, they might even become religious once they take some psychedelics, because it broadens your awareness that, you know, this life ain't just everything that happens and exists here on earth. Like, it's way more expanded than that. There's way more shit going on than that. I don't know if I covered everything I wanted to talk about, but you got the gist of it. If you're gonna take psychedelics, you create a space, you facilitate a proper space for you to have the best experience possible. Every time I'm looking over these videos, I forget some stuff, man. I just want to come back on here and talk about two things that I forgot about. That's whether or not you should trip by yourself, or and also, like, if you're like the type of person who's dysfunctional, and what taking mushrooms to do to you. I want to show y'all something real quick though, bro. Y'all see that little nigga right there? Hey, bro. Hey, bro. He looking super dusty too, I ain't gonna lie. Basically, all I wanted to say was when it comes to taking mushrooms, like by yourself or with other people, I take them by myself because it's way less going on and that you have to pay attention to or even be aware of. So it's just a lot more chill. You know what I mean? When you're around other people, even if they ain't speaking or talking, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background that you will be aware of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watched a video last night about telepathy and psychedelics, and like, that's a very real thing. But telepathy is also a very, very real thing if, like, you in a relationship with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, y'all are very close. Telepathy can develop in that way as well. You know what I mean? People you are very close to, even if it's not like an intimate relationship. But yeah, taking psychedelics with another person, like, if you're inexperienced, I would recommend a trip sitter. If you're inexperienced, I would recommend a trip sitter. You know what I mean? Because that person, if you don't know what a trip sitter is, it's basically when somebody who's taken them before, who has experience taking them, they'll sit there while you're on your journey sober. They'll sit there sober, and if anything happens like negative, you go on a negative train of thought, there'll be a safe space, basically. Because when you own this stuff, you need to be, you need somebody who got a good vibe around you. You know what I'm saying? Another thing about tripping with people is like, it can either bring y'all closer together, or it could make y'all separate. Like, it's like a make or break moment that can deepen y'all relationship, or make the moment very very conscious, to the point where you just like, maybe we should just not be friends or whatever anymore. You know what I mean? It's just a pivotal moment for y'all to really make or break the relationship, like I said. And as far as people who like are dysfunctional, and who take psychedelics, like, if you are the type of person who does a bunch of like nefarious things, or on a bunch of fuck shit, taking psychedelics or do nothing but like deepen your connection with those things. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's really all these experiences are doing is like blowing up whatever energy you want, whatever you attach to and connected to. It blows it up to the point where it's like extremely obvious, and you know, like you become extra aware of it. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you on some fuck shit, it can make you embrace that even more. You know what I'm saying? So like evil people, if they take them, they'll become more evil. You know what I'm saying? If they smart, if they like those type of people, like they actually smart, or even if they not that smart and they just are conscious of who they really are, it'll make it worse. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said it's a sacred thing. Everybody is not supposed to be taking it because, you know, like I said, it opens the door. It opens the door to, you know, more parts of yourself, or it opens the door for you to fully become whatever it is you giving your energy to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's pretty much it. You know what I mean? If y'all ever heard of a mushroom cloud, you know what I mean? When an atomic bomb drop, that's basically what it's gonna do for whatever type of energy you embodying as an individual. That's a fact. And if y'all wondering what this is a smoothie and has spirulina in it. If you never heard of spirulina, look it up. Back to the video. Be intentional. That's really it, man. That's really it. You know what I mean? I also just wanted to talk about like what you could experience and what's the purpose. You know what I'm saying? And also express why I have such a fascination with this stuff. You know what I mean? You know, one day I'll have my little space where people can come and take the medicine. You know what I mean? And I'll hold space for them and guide them through the experience. You know what I mean? Because I got a lot of knowledge about this stuff, bro. A lot of knowledge. I got a great relationship with the spirit of the mushrooms. You know what I'm saying? When you learn more about what mushrooms are and like how they reproduce and the ecosystem they create, you know what I'm saying? It's very vast, man. The mycelium works its way throughout all underground, serving as like a network. You know what I mean? Like the neural pathways in our brain, like the circuitry of a device. You know, it sends information through electrical pulses and signals. And you can look at it like the Earth's neural network, literally. That's what mushrooms are. And anything that lives on this earth that is classified as a kingdom, you know what I mean? Think of it as like a major organ for the earth. You know what I mean? All these things, they're alive. It's like they, you know, but they all serve a purpose to facilitate and manage a certain area of the planet. It's a deep way to look at it, man. I think I'm about done though, you know. Nice chill day, not too hot. I really love making these videos, and I wish I could do it in a better way. But like I said, this is as good as it's gonna get for now, man. I want to say some words of empowerment, but it's taking too long for me to figure out what to say. So I'm gonna just keep it short and simple. You are a blessing on this earth, and may you be blessed with whatever you desire, whatever you dream of, whatever you're passionate about. You will be able to live a life completely surrounding those things. Take care of yourself. Peace, YouTube.